Natural Habitat Adventures is pleased to be bringing you this webinar, Discover the Lost World of Madagascar. And here today to tell you more about that is John Mittan. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about John before I turn it over to him. John was born in 1979 in South Africa, and from a very young age was introduced to the delights of the African bush. He left with his family at the age of 5 to live in Australia, where his passion for the environment and all things living continued to grow. John studied for a biological science degree in Sydney, and after gaining experience as an instructor, John went to work as a guide in Ingwe Game Lodge, where he worked for over 2 years as a ranger and head ranger, as well as assisting a research organization which studied leopards and cheetah. John has been guiding for Nat Hab in Africa and Borneo since 2005, and we're really lucky to have him here with us today to tell us more about Madagascar. So, John, take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? I'm here to talk to everyone a little bit about, well, first of all, my experience in Madagascar and what a wonderful place Madagascar is, and just as a possible destination for anyone who wants to go. It is an extremely unique destination. Compared to places like Galapagos, people do know about the Darwin theory, and when people go there, they know about the finches and the boobies and certain reptiles. Madagascar is one of those islands that plays host to a theory very similar to that. I'll go through a few slides to show you what it's about, but that's a picture of me, obviously. But that's Madagascar. It's the 4th largest island in the world, and it's right next to Africa. It's actually only about 250 to 300 miles from the African continent itself. It is part of Africa. When people say they travel to Madagascar, they do say they're traveling to Africa. But it's a unique continent because the people aren't necessarily from Africa. And at the end of the slideshow, I'll also explain and show you some pictures. The people are actually from Asia. So they traveled about 6,400 kilometers, so that's about 4,000 miles, to reach the land of Madagascar about 2,000 years ago. And since that time, they've lived there and they've utilized Madagascar. The problem is, and which I'll continue now, with Madagascar is that it's suffering a bit. So it's important for everybody who's listening to actually either support Madagascar in any which way that you can. Holiday destination would be good because we're supporting local communities. But it is a unique place, but there's only 8% of its natural habitat left. But I will go through that now. So that's Madagascar there. You can see on the right-hand side the green strip. That's classified as the east coast of Madagascar. It's the green belt. You can see pretty much the rest of it is extremely dry, except for the right-hand side of Madagascar, or the eastern side. They get hit by hurricanes. What you call hurricanes, we call cyclones, and get a torrential rains. It is a rainforest all the way through there, and that's where you get a large population of all sorts of animals, lemurs included, reptiles, amphibians, pretty much every single one unique to Madagascar. And then in the center is quite a sort of high mountainous area, and then all the way to the left or to the western side is the desert or the dry areas of Madagascar. If we had taken this photograph, maybe the satellite photograph 1,000, 2,000, even before human settlement, this picture would have been extremely different. The central part there would also be green, but because of overpopulation, human habitat, it has been degraded, and I will go through that briefly. I'm not there to paint a scary picture of what Madagascar is like, but it is something to be made aware, and tourism is one of the best things to support this country in saving its natural habitat. I'm going to go through pretty much how it all came about. The reason I'm doing this is because lemurs, everyone knows, or hopefully everyone knows, that lemurs are unique to Madagascar. There is one form of lemur that's found in Borneo or Asia, and they think that that could have traveled through when India pushed up into Asia. But Madagascar is unique because it's got lemurs and certain other species, but lemurs in particular are not found on any other island, continent, and so it makes Madagascar a very unique place. It was formed part of Gondwanaland. You can sort of see how, with this picture here, how it was all attached. It started breaking up about 150, 170 million years ago, and Madagascar split up from India about 88 million years ago, sorry. And the interesting thing, though, is that there wasn't any animal that was on Madagascar when it was split. For some reason, Madagascar was a barren land, barren with regards to fauna, but flora, it was rife. We've got baobabs, ferns, all sorts of other sort of interesting plants. But Madagascar was void of any animals, from rodents all the way up to any large carnivores. So Madagascar was unique. So one theory, and I know this is quite a funny picture to see, but you can see Africa on the left, Madagascar there on the right. Obviously the size is a bit different. Madagascar is much smaller than that. But one theory is that about 60 million years ago, lemurs happened to cross over, or not lemurs, and the descendants of lemurs, which are very similar to bush babies and lorises, which are very primitive primates, prosimians. But they somehow crossed over. There's a few theories. As I said, it's only about 250 miles from the African coast. And one of the reasons or the theories is that there was a lot of hurricanes or cyclones coming through, and the ancestors of the lemurs somehow got trapped on a floating island of grass and debris, and they crossed all the way through to Madagascar. And this obviously happened over a few times. And from there, the lemur population, or the descendants, started multiplying and evolving, and we get many different types of lemurs these days, which are extremely unique to any other continental country in the world. Here's a bit of a description. You can see about 88 million years ago, they were the descendants of lorises, bush babies, and lemurs, and somehow they did cross over to Madagascar. It's been proven through science and all of that, but lemurs have now evolved into all the different subgroups that we will see, and I've got some nice photos for everyone to have a look at. Just as this here, I'm just going to show you once again this photo here. I did explain it a little bit before. This is Madagascar now, and it's called the bleeding land. A lot of people from space have taken photos of Madagascar, and because the human population utilizes the land a lot, they've done a lot of slashing, clearing of the bush, slash and burn one is for livestock, which is in the southern part of Madagascar, and pretty much in the central all the way up to the north is rice paddies. And so all that brown area was once forest, and the bleeding land of Madagascar, whenever it rains in Madagascar, through the rivers and tributaries going out to the ocean, you see this lateritic red soil that bleeds out into the oceans of the Indian Ocean. That's the terraced hillsides now in Madagascar. It looks very similar to Asia. The people there got the terraced idea, obviously, from their descendants, which are from Asia, which is and all of that there that we see is actually rice paddies. Rice is the staple diet of the local people there. Through all the way from the south, all the way to the north, everyone eats rice. But because of what we're seeing there in that picture, they do this, unfortunately. Those are baobabs, one of the 6 species that are only found in Madagascar of baobabs. But the people here do slash and burn. They clear the land of the forest. This is what we call a deciduous forest. And this in particular, they would be clearing this land for grazing their cattle. This is more in the southern part of Madagascar, but in more of the northern part, they would just clear it to create rice paddies. And obviously, with increasing population, more and more is actually being cut away. But as I said at the beginning, but you might not have heard me, 8% of Madagascar's natural habitat is left. 90% or more than 90% has been cleared. So when we're thinking about traveling to Madagascar, or when we go to Madagascar, what we're seeing is a very, very, very small portion of what it used to be like. There are lemurs that have become extinct. There's lemurs becoming extinct or animals becoming extinct every single day. But we've got fossils. We've got giant sloth lemurs that have become extinct during a human population. The giant sloth lemur was about the size of a male silverback gorilla. Obviously, he's not there anymore. The largest lemur we have is called the Indri. It's a fantastic, beautiful lemur. I think I've got a photo there for everyone to see. But yeah, 8% is left. Companies organizations such as WWF have stopped a lot of this slash and burn technique and trying to get the communities involved in ecotourism because, one, that's a renewable resource and it protects the areas and the fauna and flora of the place. But there's the bleeding gland. This is when we were flying to one of our camps called Anjajavi. This is obviously during heavy rain, but because of the erosion, all the rivers that flow turn red because they're just eating away and eroding away at the soil. You can see here, this was all once forest. Now it's all grassland for grazing. And you can see all the erosion gullies there. But that's the bad picture I painted. The good picture from now on is this is the areas that have been protected. This particular photo is of what we call the spiny forest. And it's an extremely unique area. It's only found in the southern part of Madagascar. These larger trees that we see here are either baobabs, moringas, and there's one that looks like sort of cacti or spindly trees that we call octopus trees. They're a unique species only found in Madagascar. Dideriaceae. They part of a family, the spiny. It's called the spiny forest. And if you've seen pictures of Madagascar of lemurs jumping onto these spiny trees, this is the place. It's only found in the south. Once again, and it sort of annoys me, unfortunately, when I travel there all the time, this forest is still getting smaller and smaller. You can see it's a very dry forest. It's a deciduous forest. But Madagascar is a very poor place. And one of the only things that people can use for heating and for cooking is wood. And so they come into a forest like this and clear it. But these are the protected areas, and the fortunate thing is that we can find everything from endemic tortoises, endemic lemurs, obviously, endemic chameleons, reptiles, birds in particular. And I'll go through a series because we were talking about Darwinism and Galapagos Island. And you'll see specific birds that are found only in Madagascar that have actually evolved to suit every single niche found in Madagascar. This is some of the beautiful baobabs that are found in Madagascar. There's 7 species of baobabs. Madagascar has 6. Australia has 1 species. And Africa has 1. Madagascar has 6 only in Madagascar, 1 in Australia, but Madagascar also plays host to the African species of baobab. But this is one of the unique trees. It is a sort of a protected tree. People don't really utilize it a lot. Hence, that's pretty much the large tree that's found in the south. This is only found in the dry areas, so when you head to the south or the west coast of Madagascar, you start seeing massive, beautiful baobab trees such as this. The people do utilize these trees. They will chop. You can see at the base of some of these trees, they've cut some of the bark away. It is a fibrous tree, so it doesn't die if people cut the bark away. So that's the fortunate thing. but they will use it as fodder for their cattle during dry times. These are the special birds. They're called vangers, and I'll go through and back through a few different photos. That's another vanger, that's another vanger, and that's another vanger. You can see they're all very different types of birds, all fulfilling a different niche. So, as I said, the unique thing about Madagascar in particular, apart from the lemurs, because everyone is familiar with the lemurs of Madagascar, there are specific and special birds only found in Madagascar. And you can see with their different bill shapes how they've evolved to fill a specific niche. These guys are sort of more insect eaters. This guy is using a probing bill to go into the holes of trees to look for insects and shrubs. And the hook-billed vanger, you can see that sort of more raptor-like bill of the specific bird is there to catch reptiles, insects, rodents. It's quite a vicious little bird. But also what Madagascar plays host to is a wide variety of amphibians and reptiles, and obviously lemurs. I'll get to the lemurs now. But yeah, this is a green leaf frog found along the east coast. So it's only found in the rainforests of Madagascar, although there are other amphibians found throughout Madagascar, but the east coast is more rich with diversity from lemurs, reptiles, and chameleons, amphibians, rodents, and carnivores. We get chameleons. There's a wide variety of chameleons found throughout Madagascar. We'll see more chameleons on the east coast, surprisingly, although it's a rainforest, and it does get quite cold because of the high altitude. There is a large number of chameleons. They literally, you can arrive to Madagascar. We go for night walks when we go and travel to Madagascar, and we just use a torch or a spotlight or a flashlight, and we walk the roads and the trails, and we're looking for chameleons. Chameleons change color. They go a bit more of a lighter color at night, and that's one of the ways how we find chameleons. There's 16 different species of chameleons found in Madagascar, and we see a very, very large quantity or different species of those chameleons and reptiles. This is a spear-nosed snake. It's the only snake that sorry, I do apologize for the picture, but I've only seen the snake once, and some of the local guides have never seen it before. We were extremely lucky to see the snake. I didn't manage to focus on its eyes, but you can see that little protrusion from its nose. No one particularly knows what it's there to or what it's used for, but it is one of the. It's obviously a tree snake, quite vicious. I tried to get quite close and wanted to attack me, so I left it. But this spear-nosed snake is one of the unique species of Madagascar. We see a lot of different species of geckos. This is what we call a peacock gecko, this guy will be in your rooms or outside your rooms catching insects, and a very good friend to have, especially to avoid for most of you who don't like insects. And I've got two photos here. This is what we call a leaf-tailed gecko. It's very difficult to sort of maybe see what it is. There's two photos there. What looks like a leaf there at the top is actually a gecko. Hence the name leaf-tailed gecko. Just above the natural habitat sign there is the tail. The body arches to the top, and then the head is there on the left, on the top left. And it's called Fantasticus, the specific Latin name for it. It's such an amazing gecko to see. This is very difficult to see, but as you can see, we were fortunate enough to see some of these guys. Another different chameleon. These guys, this is in a deciduous forest when we were looking at ring-tailed lemurs, trying to move away and then trying to climb up onto another branch. And this guy, although obviously you can't tell, he's maybe about 1.5 feet long. He's an extremely massive massive chameleon, and we see this guy quite a lot. But if you can imagine a foot and a half, 45 centimeters, 20-inch long chameleon, extremely interesting to see. So here we are with the lemurs. This is what we call a black and white ruffed lemur. It's one of the lemurs that we see. But just to give a bit of an outline, there's only about 110, 111 species of lemurs still alive today on Madagascar. On the trips that we're fortunate enough to lead and travel to, and the guests that are able to travel, we see roughly about 20% of all the lemur species, which is actually quite a lot. So we see about between 20 and 24, 25 different species of lemur. This is one of them. It's one of the largest lemurs. It's actually the second largest lemur after the Indri, but he's the size of a small dog, but doesn't weigh a lot, but he's just a lot of hair, but hence the name black and white ruffed lemur. That's him with a bit of a close-up. Extremely interesting lemurs. They tend to hang around in pairs or in sort of family groups. So it'll be obviously male, female, and their offspring. And they've got most lemurs are actually territorial, and most lemurs follow females. So the males do a bit of the protecting, but the females are the heads of the groups. And if we're fortunate enough to see these guys in the wild, we might only see a handful of them, as I said, because they are in family groups. But they are one of the more vocal lemurs, as the Indri. So if they do territorial calls, it really does sound like dogs barking. But that's another close-up. Absolutely stunning lemurs. This here is a much smaller lemur. It's called the greater or grey bamboo lemur. There's a few different bamboo lemurs. In one of the places we go to, called Runamafana, which is along the east coast and the central east coast of Madagascar. In Runamafana, in this one area, there's only 2 greater bamboo lemurs left. They've tried to find other greater bamboo lemurs to introduce, but hence the name bamboo lemurs. These guys love eating bamboos. And there's strychnine. Strychnine is like a poison that's also in bamboo. And they've evolved enough that they don't mind that poison. But these specific ones in this area get a higher quantity. So whenever they've tried to reintroduce these species of bamboo lemurs, all those individuals die. So the only 2 that we see are actually mother and daughter. But they are trying vigorously to try introduce some more different, more lemurs of the same species. This is what we call a greater or a common brown lemur. Absolutely beautiful lemurs. They're also known as the pig lemurs. They make a very pig call, very distinct. When we do hear that noise, we know that we're looking for a brown lemur. Absolutely, they're more the comical type lemurs. They're very common, hence the name common brown lemur. We will see, like if you travel to Madagascar, you'll see this guy pretty much throughout Madagascar. And once again, lives in small family groups. There's another photo of one. And you get many different families or subgroups of lemurs. You've got the Indris, which is what the black and white ruffed lemur is part of. And this is what we call a Milne-Edwards sifaka. They're the largest of all the lemurs that we see. This is a beautiful sifaka. It's only found in the Runamafana area, which is where that greater bamboo lemur is that we see. But once again, live in small groups. It is sometimes difficult to see the lemurs because they do move around a lot, obviously, and they do move into trees. But we try high up in the canopy. They move into the canopy at certain times, especially when they're feeding. But when we go, we try locate them when they're resting, when they come down into the lower canopy. Because along the east coast, because it's a rainforest, the trees are quite high and tall. So we are able and we are fortunate enough to see lemurs such as this guy. We only see this guy once, and on the odd occasion we do miss him, but more often that the more times that we've been going, the more often that we've been seeing this gentleman. Now, I've got these two little photos here. They're not the best pictures because generally we have to shoot at nighttime because these are the nocturnal lemurs. These are called mouse lemurs. This particular photo right here is the Madame Berth's mouse lemur. Although it doesn't look like it, he's about the size of a man's thumb. Extremely small. He's the smallest lemur, and he was actually only discovered 5 years ago. Sorry, my apologies. Only discovered 5 years ago, and he's found in sort of the northwest of Madagascar. And this one here is a grey mouse lemur, and this is also found in Ranamafana. Very difficult, very, very curious, but on the other hand, they do move around a lot. It's very difficult because if you shine the torch, they will move away. So, but they're such cute little creatures. They do look like rodents, but they're obviously not. They are primates, but they are the smallest of the family of lemurs, and they're called mouse lemurs. I'm sure everyone's familiar with this. This is sort of the flagship species, I would say, of Madagascar. It's the ring-tailed lemur. It's the most common, the most social, and the most sought-after lemur in Madagascar. Reason being is that they live in large communities. They don't live in family groups, and they're the more terrestrial type of lemur. So they do move onto the ground, and they move around in large groups. And obviously extremely funny to watch. We could spend hours and hours watching these guys. Beautiful interactions with each other, and they are remarkable lemurs. You can see they're very comical when they huddle up to each other with these beautiful ring tails. This is actually at a place on our way to one of the camps that we stay at, and it's actually a community project. So this photo was taken there. It's the people of the area. They had no advice from anyone, but they decided, and they saw the need for tourism and the need for protecting the area. So the people of the area came together, and they knew that they had this land left over that wasn't cultivated, that still had its natural habitat. So what they did is they formed a community tourism project where people can come by, and they will come by and specifically look for the ring-tailed lemurs. And it's in a beautiful area, and it's a really good stop. We actually stop here, we walk, have a great experience with these lemurs, and then we have lunch, and sometimes the lemurs come and join us. We don't feed them, obviously, but they are very curious. Very, very, very awesome creatures. I love the ringtails. That's lemur. Well, it's actually not a lemur. It's a sifaka. It's one of the largest lemurs, along with the Milne Edwards sifaka and the black and white ruffed lemur. This, you can see the little baby down the bottom. I've got another picture of the young one there. But this is called a Cockerel's sifaka, and it's actually only found in the area that we go to. It's a place called Underjavi, and lemurs are very, just as a bit of a background, lemurs are very diversified. You might not see one specific species. You can go to one area, a very small area, and see one species, and then it's not found anywhere else. So that's what's unique about the Cockerel sifaka, is that it's only found in this area where this beautiful camp is that we stay at. And we're fortunate enough to have these sifakas in and around the camp, so we don't really have to travel much unless we want to go look for other things. But this specific family lives around the camp, and we get some amazing experiences with these. These are Cockerel sifaka, beautiful red or sort of maroon color. Notice on their forehead that they don't have a crown. So when I go through some of the photos, you notice that I'm going to be talking about a Varose sifaka, which has more of a darker red color, and it's got a dark crown on its forehead. But this is only found in one of the camps that we go to. It's one of the little young ones. We were fortunate. This was actually a couple of months ago, and this was about a week and a half old, this sifaka, and we were fortunate enough to see it very, very briefly. But some of you might have realized that, or heard that certain lemurs are called the dancing lemurs, or the the dancing lemurs. The cocal sifaka fall under that sort of group of lemurs that move around on the ground. But they do move from tree to tree. These are obviously tree-dwelling species. There's two modes of travel. They are in a deciduous forest, so the cover isn't as thick as a rainforest, so they do need to either jump or go onto the ground and move from tree to tree. I just took this series of photos just to show you. One of the sifakas jumping from one tree in the middle of the air and then landing onto another tree. That's a good 9 feet or so that it jumped. Another way, that's another mode of transport, is that they do what they would call the dancing, but these specific ones dance from the side, whereas the Varose sifaka will jump from forward to back. It's quite interesting. That's a nice little close-up of one of them. They're very, very, very relaxed creatures, so we can get really great experiences and close-ups of these specific lemurs. That's a Varose sifaka. You can see the darker crown, a lot less coloration on the fur, and a sort of dark black crown. I'm just going to point out what makes lemurs unique apart from most other primates. One is that they've got fixed eyes. So if you have a look at their eyes, they can't move their eyeballs. If they want to look somewhere, they need to move their head. Another interesting fact is their dentition, their lower teeth, have a comb structure, so they use that to actually groom themselves. But if you have a look there at that 1 foot, not the hand, but the foot a bit lower, you can see what looks like a spike coming out of its toe. That's actually called what we call a scratch claw. And lemurs, or the old prosimians, have this form of thing called a scratch claw that they can use to also groom themselves and scratch themselves. It's only unique in these specific species of primates or order of primates. Obviously, other primates do not. They can move their eyelids. They don't have the comb tooth structure, and they don't have the scratch claw. But obviously, they've got the opposable thumb. This is a unique, extremely, extremely unique species of lemur. It's called the Zombitsi sportive lemur. Nocturnal, you can see from the very large eyes. Just below this picture is its hole, but they love to come out during the day and just have a look around. The reason why this is so unique, it's only found, it's literally, if you put a pen dot on the map of Madagascar, it's found only in this area. It's called Zombitsi Zoobisa National Park. We're fortunate enough to travel through this area. This area was actually proclaimed a national park only 6 years ago. And with the help of WWF, that's why this park still exists. When we drive to this park, it's literally open grassland, and then all of a sudden you see this wall of trees, and it's literally a line between grassland and trees, and you can see where the forest has been cut and where the forest still exists. It's a good example of how the slash and burn has affected, and what we think is a natural grassland isn't actually. It's been human made. But this is a unique species, only found in this area, and there's only a handful of these species of the sportive lemur left. But we're fortunate enough to know a resident pair, and we do go specifically looking for this guy. There's a nice little close-up. Very large eyes, nocturnal. The name sportive lemur. They're very active, although they look docile during the day. They are very active and very sportive, hence the name sportive. They jump a lot, move around a lot, and move very, very quickly. They're very agile in the trees. And they'll eat anything from fruits to insects to small rodents to reptiles. Quite an adaptable little creature. Now, I'm going to be sort of talking about the uniqueness of Madagascar along with that sportive lemur and many other different lemurs. Madagascar plays host to a lot of different species, not just lemurs, that are obviously unique to Madagascar. Obviously, because of habitat destruction, um, some species more so than others are a lot more rare or endangered. This specific is called the Madagascan bald ibis. It's only found in Madagascar. It looks very similar to the African bald ibis, which is pretty much identical except for that light white eye, and obviously their habitat, which is Madagascar and the mangroves of Madagascar. Because of people needing fuel for cooking and for heat, the people go into the mangroves. Mangroves is quite a hard wood, and they come and they clear the mangroves and for building, fuel, cooking, and this specific species of bird has suffered. And there's 5 sites only on the west coast of Madagascar that you can see this specific bird. Along with this guy, the Madagascan bald ibis, we're fortunate enough to, if the tide is right, we go for a boat drive from Anjajavi, and we go into the mangroves specifically looking for these guys. And we've got about a 90% success rate. But one is because it's a protected area that the camp has protected. Along with him is this guy. It looks like a very drab eagle, but this is called the Madagascar fish eagle. Once again, it's a critically endangered bird, only found along the west coast of Madagascar. And once again, due to habitat destruction and overfishing in the area, this bird has suffered. There's only about 150 breeding pairs of these birds left in the wild. But we're fortunate enough to see them. Once again, it's a bit of a sanctuary where we travel to. But in the areas where there is no tourism, there is no sort of form of protection, animals such as this suffer quite a bit. This is a nice little sort of Madagascan. I know I'm going to be saying Madagascan bird, and some of those guests that have been on trips with me, if I say, oh, this is a Madagascar wagtail, which is this bird, or a Madagascar sunbird, it's a very generic name, Madagascar, but they are called that. This is in and around the camps. It's just a beautiful little bird picture that I thought I might put in there. One thing that, and I'm sure a lot of people that have been on a lot of trips, is that with regards to conservation and protection of a country, or protection of natural areas, it does play a role with me and the organizations that we work for, but conservation comes from people such as this that's in the slideshow. If they are familiar with ecotourism and protecting their natural heritage and their natural diversity, their natural habitats, they've got a renewable resource such as tourism, where they protect their species, whether it be plants, mammals, animals, you name it. Some of the camps that we travel to have also realized this, and we specifically try to go to camps where we actually support communities. And these 2 young girls, I just took the photo, and a few more, were from a specific camp that we go to, and a large percentage of the accommodation goes to this village that's in and around this area. And in return, that they mustn't chop down any of the trees. They must protect the area. And in return, they've got schools, clinics. They can sell some of their fish and some of their produce that they grow to the camps. So they do make money that way, and also they're getting an education and they're bettering themselves. And you can tell because of the protection of the area. Just another young girl. This is, you can see just a little bit beyond her, that's the coastline, that's the west coast of Madagascar. And just some boys that were very inquisitive. The people of Madagascar, as I said before, aren't from Africa, although some people about 1,000 years ago from the Bantu tribe from Africa came into Madagascar. But a lot of them are from Borneo, Java, so from Southeast Asia. And there's about 22 million population and about 18 different ethnic groups. And 22 million people in quite a small island. does have an effect, obviously, on the area. But with projects such as this, it does look a little bit sort of more hopeful and positive for the country. Some young girls, they don't mind their photos taken. It's sort of a give and take. We're supporting the area, we're supporting them through by staying there, and the people at this specific place where these photos were taken, we're able to go to the markets on a market day, which is on a Sunday, and we visit the community and see what they sell, because people live far and wide. Some people grow tomatoes, some people grow sugarcane, some people have goats. So they all come to this market one specific day of the week, and they come and they trade, they barter, they buy, they sell, and very inquisitive people, and they love their photos being taken. Just another sort of variety of photos. This is another common brown lemur. This was actually in the camp. It was alarm calling at a raptor, which unfortunately I couldn't get a photo of. But it was literally, this photo, he was maybe about 9 feet in front of us, looking beyond us, looking at the bird of prey. But you can see, you can get really close to some of these lemurs. Certain cases, obviously they're up in the trees and they're far, but some of the interactions we get with the wildlife there are nice, up and close, and very personal. That's pretty much it. That's our last photo. That's the sort of the last stay of our stay in Madagascar. It's a place called Anjajavi, which is where that lemur was taken. Beautiful waters, also snorkeling there is fantastic. Beautiful sunsets. But you know, Madagascar is such a wonderful place to travel to, because it's unique with regards to its culture. When we do travel through Madagascar, we're not being selfish enough just to see the wildlife. We get involved with communities. We get to drive through the areas, see how the people live, and be able enough to see some of the most remarkable places, I think, in the world. Some of the most unique species, as you can see on some of those photos there. But it is really such a stunning place. If anyone does want to travel, by all means, I would be there to answer any questions, which I'm sure maybe some questions are coming through. But do recommend people coming to Madagascar. It's a very diverse place. But one thing, and I try to, but I'm not there to paint a bad picture, because I'm more of an optimist than a pessimist. But Madagascar has 10% or 8% of its natural habitat left. So the more people, and obviously the only thing that's really going to protect those areas is tourism. It's a very poor country. We will see poverty. And obviously with a poor country, the last thing on people's mind is the environmental conservation. But one thing that changes that is tourism. And tourism to Madagascar is picking up, but it does. It's had its political issues a few years ago, but it's a very stable. But you know, the political issues are not for tourists. That's for more of an internal thing. We don't see that. But tourism will protect that area, and can guarantee you species disappear every single day on that country. And one of the only things that is going to protect it is people traveling to Madagascar. And yeah, that's about it. So I hope if there's any sort of questions.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, John. So we do have some really good questions here. Many people are interested in learning more. So I think I'll start with some of the experiential type questions.
Yeah.
First of all, what is the activity level on these trips, and how fit would a person need to be?
You know, I've had many guests with different sort of levels of fitness. You know, there are on the first couple of days, or the first 2 stops that we actually go to, for us to see these specific creatures. And if you don't mind, sorry, Lee, will the photos still be up on while I'm answering this?
Yes, they will.
Okay, I'm going to go through while I'm talking about it. But there are hiking trails, but there's alternatives. I always make an alternative. You know, if you do want to specifically see, say, something like the Milne Edward Safaka, that gentleman right there, there is a possibility that we might have to hike But bearing in mind we've got all day, so if you're unfit, you can still do it. I've done it many times with people with different levels of fitness. It doesn't mean that we're rushing there just to go and see these lemurs, which obviously I think fitness is also with regards to pace. We keep the pace low and slow. It's not an issue. But the first couple of days, I must admit, it's not a hike, but it's a decent walk, and there's a few ups and downs. But then after that, any sort of walks and activities that we do is pretty much on flat ground.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then for accommodations, could you describe a little bit of the accommodations and transportation? What are the vehicles like, and what are the rooms and places that we can stay?
All right. Yeah. With regards to transportation, the nice thing about this trip is that we get to travel on the road quite a bit. There's I would say, two long driving days. The rest are very short days, but with that being said, the long driving days, we're stopping off and we go and we have a look at these guys and have lunch on the way, the ring-tailed lemurs. So, and the vehicle that we drive is sort of a nice sort of, small bus, very big, large windows, so we can see the countryside, because it is an amazing countryside, and very comfortable vehicles, safe roads. The roads actually aren't that bad. There's a few areas where there's potholes and stuff, but the transports and the transportation is great. With regards to the accommodation, as I said, Madagascar is still sort of up and coming with regards to tourism, and which is a good thing, because they are building their infrastructure a bit more. With regards to the accommodations, we're not necessarily, because we're obviously natural habitat, we're not there for, I'm not going to say 5-star accommodation, if the area that we're going to has specific species that we want to see. We go through different varying types of accommodation. We go through from a little bit more rustic type of accommodation, but it's fantastic. It's heated rooms. There's no TV in any of the rooms. They've got either heaters or air conditioners in the rooms. Great service, great food. Some of the first 2 nights, once again, and it's because we're traveling to these specific areas, that the accommodations aren't as fancy as the up-and-coming accommodations. I can say and a lot of people would agree with me if they've been on the trip, the last place that we stay at is absolutely amazing. It's a relay and chateau accommodation. It's on the beach with that sunset. Last photo I took there. Beautiful beach bungalows right on the beach, really 5-star, but even the worst accommodation that we're going to, and I'm saying the worst is a bad word to use, is absolutely fantastic. Beautiful views of the mountains, the mist coming through. It really is. The accommodations are really comfortable for anyone who wants to travel there.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, how many people will be on a trip?
Up to 10. Up to 10 people, which is actually, it's a good number. The vehicle's large enough that I make sure that everyone gets a window seat, unless couples want to sit next to each other. So the vehicle is large enough. Group size is quite good. It's a very social trip. So with a group of 10, people can socialize, but it's also a trip that sort of holds itself. If people want to do certain things individually, we can arrange it. We can always obviously arrange stuff like that. So group maximum 10. Madagascar, fortunately, and I'm going to say this, last year we were a little bit quieter. This year we've had, I did 3 trips this year, and every single group had 10 guests. The nice thing about that is that people are becoming more interested in Madagascar. So hopefully there's going to be a lot more trips next year.
Yes, indeed. And what about food? There are several people wondering about food, whether vegetarians can be accommodated. In general, is the food safe to eat? Just some general questions about food.
Okay. At all of the camps that we go to, we make sure that every single camp provides top quality food. The food, bearing in mind, it's once again, it's a country that's still sort of coming with regards to tourism. But sorry, I'm going to go a little bit divert here a bit. But that's the nice thing because we feel like explorers when we travel. But with regards to the food is great. There is not much variety because although Madagascar had bit of a French influence, um, we do get some French style type food, and we also get a taste of a lot of local food. Um, it's fabulous. I actually enjoy the meals when I go there, and I know a lot of the guests do. And I've had a lot of guests with dietary requirements, whether vegetarian, vegan, you name it. Every single camp will accommodate that, um, and everything from beautiful chicken to fish caught off the coast, tuna, you name it. It's there. The food is delicious.
Oh, wonderful.
And the best tasting yogurt I've had in any country I've traveled to. Have to say that.
That's a great endorsement. Well, what about the weather? Several people are interested to know about the weather, when the best traveling weather would be, what month?
Okay. Well, with the trips that we lead are only during the dry season because I'm going through back to the map here. The trips we lead will only go through the dry season or bordering the dry season / wet season. The reason being is that obviously we get a lot of cyclones or hurricanes, which most people would know by that word, coming through. And you can see it comes in from the west. That green belt there that you see is the rainforest. So even though it's the dry season, it still can rain there, but it's like an afternoon shower and then the rain disappears. The rest of Madagascar is actually quite warm and dry, especially the times that we're traveling through. We go generally at our winter, your summer, or America's or the northern hemisphere's summer. So we're not going through when it's extremely hot, which is a nice thing because that place can get extremely warm. So the only rain that we'll experience is the first 2 nights accommodations, which is along the east coast. The rest is very dry. The southeast and the northwest, the southwest and the northwest are very warm. We'll even get the opportunity to swim in swimming pools, go for a snorkel along the coast, and it's not a problem. It's actually warm enough for that. But it's very temperate. The only rain we'll experience, once again, is along the east coast at the first 2 nights accommodations. But if I say that, I've been there and I haven't experienced rain either. But it's not torrential rain at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So a lot of people have questions about malaria and whether one should take malaria pills prior to visiting Madagascar.
I will never tell anyone not to take malaria pills. It's unethical for me to say it. It's better to be safe than sorry. But with that in mind, we're going through the sort of the drier season and the winter season. So mosquitoes aren't as bad. We don't really experience a lot of insects and mosquitoes when we're there. But it's always better to be safe than sorry. I don't take prophylactics. I can't, otherwise I won't have a liver left. But it's better to be safe than sorry, especially if you want to continue on and do an extension into Southern Africa, go for a safari in Botswana, South Africa, Zambia. It's always good to take prophylactics, but better to be safe than sorry, but it's not necessary.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then there's a question about the water. Is the water, it says, warm and clean?
Yes, warm and clean. The water is warm and clean, but the water that will be, which water might that be? The coast? Yes, I'm guessing warm and clean would be along the coast. I'm guessing not drinking water. Yes, at Underjavi in particular, and also at Tulia, which is where we stay along the coast, the water is crystal clear. Turquoise blue waters, awesome for snorkeling, and it is warm. It's almost tropical, especially up in the northwest there, where we spend our last night's accommodation. It's warm, and I'm not a big fan of cold water, and I go swimming in the ocean there and take some guest snorkeling, and it's fabulous.
Oh, sounds wonderful.
And clean, by the way, because we're in a very protected sort of natural area, so there's no rubbish, no dirt or pollution on the coastline or in the water.
Okay, good. So we're just have a few minutes left. I want to get this question in because several people are curious, and that is how do you get there in the especially from North America? How would guests get to Madagascar?
Okay, the best way of travel, and especially if you're doing a trip, obviously with natural habitat, we actually meet everyone for the first night actually in Johannesburg. So it's a matter of flying from the States to Johannesburg. I just flew Atlanta direct to Johannesburg yesterday. So or Johannesburg direct to Atlanta. So there is obviously the opposite. And then you can spend the night there in Johannesburg. The company arranges beautiful accommodation right there at the airport. We meet everybody. I give a presentation very similar to what we've done right here. And then we fly from Johannesburg to Madagascar, and it's about a 4-hour flight in a medium-sized jet, and that's really the only way. There are direct flights actually from France to Antananarivo, which is the capital, but our trip makes sure that we go from Johannesburg.
Okay, very good. Well, I think that we do have questions that didn't get answered, and we will send those along to the staff in the office so that they can follow up. But you have so many compliments. I just want to tell you how many people just are just thrilled by everything that you had to share today and so enthusiastic. So thank you so much, John. And
Okay, thank you.
I want to turn it back over to you for anything you might want to share with the audience before we close.
No, yeah. I was fortunate enough to go to Madagascar a couple of years ago to lead the trip specifically for natural habitats. And it's, for me as a guide, it's one of the big ticks to travel to Madagascar and guide. And it still, every single day that I go there, it's a fabulous, every single time I go there, it's an absolutely remarkable place. And I just implore everyone to travel there because we need to support the people. That's some of the most amazing people you'll come across, the Malagasy people, and also to protect its wildlife. And as I kept on repeating and repeating, the only way that we're going to protect it is through tourism. So if anyone, whether it be natural habitat or any trip, but preferably, hopefully, you come and join me on a trip. But to try experience Madagascar for what it is, because it is a scenic and absolutely stunningly beautiful place with an amazing wildlife that's unique, and it's only found right there. So yeah, thanks for everyone who's listened to my presentation.
Thanks again for being with us, and we hope you'll come back again in 2 weeks. We'll be talking about some expedition cruising. So those of you interested in that, to be on the lookout for an email invitation. And with that, we will say good day and conclude our webinar. Goodbye, everybody.